And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. The Great Resignation is quickly turning into the Great Regret. Remember when young people just left their jobs with no prospect or on the horizon or to a new gig thinking it was the next best thing? A new survey by the Muse shows 72% of those who regret doing so. 2,500 Gen Z-ers and millennials were polled, and they admitted that they were surprised to learn that their job is different from what they were led to believe during the interview process. Basically, they're feeling bamboozled. Next, compared to buyer's remorse.
You hit the nail on the head with the caveat emptor reference, and that is let the buyer beware. We oftentimes think that price and cost are the same thing, and they're not. So compensation at both companies might have health insurance, but one may have a higher deductible. You may have the same number of hours of leave time, but one company may allow you to take them all at once, and one company may require you to split them up. And so many people are discovering that the new boss is the same as the old boss. And so particularly with millennials, it's the struggle, right? We're used to instant gratification. We go to the new company, they still have annual performance reviews. They still have fax machines. So you move to this new environment expecting everything to be different. And the reality is boomers and Gen X still control 75% of the wealth. Even as younger workers are moving to new platforms, most older workers, including the bosses and political leaders and so forth, are still on Facebook. And so when we haven't returned to the office, many of those networking structures that people use to build new project relationships or develop promotional relationships and even personal relationships with their coworkers to get ahead, we're struggling to do that in a virtual environment still. And so where they left an environment where they knew the people and they sort of the fox versus the wolf, as I say, the wolf they knew, but the fox is something sort of sneaky and unknown. And so they're discovering this in droves and realizing, oh, wait a second, just because my work environment wasn't perfect before, it's not going to be perfect again.
And what we're seeing is many of them are contemplating leaving those jobs now. Some are saying as early as a month, and according to this survey done by the Muse.
And it's a generational challenge. I mentioned instant gratification culture, and we know that video games, you immediately get the points as opposed to most traditional workplaces where it takes quarterly or annual reviews to actually get that information. But we also recognize how those non-traditional ideas about how long you have to stay in a job. The challenge is generationally, instead of seeing these sort of attributes, whether it be your horoscope, your MBTI, or just a generational umbrella of characteristics, a lot of us see them as immutable as opposed to embracing them as things to acknowledge and then change. So realizing that if you only stay in a job for a month, you still haven't learned anything. But
Right.
so while our social values have changed and we say, oh, you don't have to stay 2 years, just because it's okay to do that doesn't mean that it's beneficial or healthy for your profession. People are still looking at the longevity in your prior employment, and there's just the reality of how long it takes to build relationships. We're quick to send a text or an email when really sometimes a phone call still works. So generationally, we as millennials, and particularly Gen Z, are going to have to come out of our comfort zone and say, okay, this is how we are, but how do we need to be in the current workforce that is still populated by a number of bosses? So we know as older workers that sometimes you do 10 years of work and somebody's daughter or cousin or brother-in-law comes in and gets that VP position that we've been gunning for. Gen Z and millennials have to accept the fact that, hey, you grumble and you put in your time and maybe you find a new opportunity as opposed to just walking away, taking your toys and going home.
And do you think this will start an environment of more employers requiring work agreements and or contracts? Because if you walk in and you stay only a month, you're costing that company money because they have to train you. They're pumping resources into you when you walk through the door, and they're losing money if you leave really soon.
There are a number of contractual mechanisms that, as you mentioned, that can protect the employer as well. The challenge is when you have a historic quit rate, when you have a number of people building sort of these unique and specific skill sets and high demand for a number of professions, if you add additional hurdles to the hiring process, your most talented workers won't sign up. So if you've got options, you're not going to sign that 5-year agreement, right? Serena and Venus Williams didn't sign that first deal with Nike. They took their time because they knew they were the best. So similarly, employers that seek to restrict or create more hurdles in the hiring process may find that their pool of talented applicants drops and they only get the sort of middle of the range applicants.
So you just have to take that chance and hope that they'll stick around. Dietrich von
And we
Biedenfeld.
would also hope that, yes, sir, we'd hope that some of those boomers and Gen Xers would adapt as well. Just like millennials need to say, hey, instant gratification isn't the be all end all. We also need some of those leaders to step up and say, hey, we could take a compensated emeritus or advisory role as opposed to keeping such a tight grip on the steering wheel of the direction of this company. We're not going to be around forever. Tomorrow isn't promised. So maybe we can start building some of that transition planning and give millennials and Gen Zers more of a voice to actually create an environment that's welcoming, and so that retention rate goes up. So there's room for give on both ends.
All righty, sir. Well, we appreciate the information, and let's see what these young workers will do after the Great Resignation, now the Great Regret.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored tonight.